Today I want to share with you from 2 Corinthians 7 and specifically verse 10, which says, "For godly grief produces a repentance that leads to salvation and brings no regret. But worldly grief produces death." What exactly does Paul mean in that verse? Well, let's talk about godly versus ungodly grief, if you will. I can remember my mentor at Boston University, Dr. Harold Beck, talking about the parable of the father with the two prodigal sons in Luke chapter 15. And I can remember Harold describing the younger son's experience, and he's off in a far country and he squanders all that he's given, and he's feeding pigs, which is a terrible thing for a Jewish young man to do. And Dr. Beck liked to say, wallowing around in the mud is no way to get clean. And to me, that's an example of what Paul calls worldly grief. If we just wallow around in our grief and our pain in the mud, so to speak, we got to get out of the pig's pen. We got to get out of the pigsty. And grief and repentance, we're talking about grief not in the sense of losing a loved one here. We're talking about grief over our own behavior, our own poor behavior, making a bad decision, a bad choice. That's what we're focusing on here. Grief, that kind of guilt or grief, is good if it leads us to repentance, to change the direction of our life or the actions that we habitually take or make. And that's what Paul is guiding us to. Godly grief produces repentance that leads to salvation. We change the direction in which we are moving. We all make mistakes. One of the things about preaching on a weekly basis and being on the platform on a weekly basis is there are very many weeks where I say something in worship and then afterwards I'm beating myself up on Sunday afternoon saying, "Oh my word, why did I say that?" Well, if I just wallow around in that, that's not good. It's only good if it leads me to be wiser the next time or more careful the next time when I'm speaking. And in the same way, in your own life, you can think about things that you may have recently done or said that caused you to be upset with yourself or to beat yourself up a little bit, or something that you find yourself continuing to go over in your mind. Well, try not to stay there. It's okay to acknowledge, okay, I did something, I wish I hadn't done it. How do I learn from it so I don't do it again? And then you move forward on that path that leads to not only salvation, but our continuing sanctification, making us more and more like Jesus. So if you find yourself wrestling with guilt, feeling badly about something you've said or done, try not to hold on to it. Confess it to God, learn from it, and release it so that you get out of the pigsty and back on the way home to your loving Father.